The edge of known space wasn't supposed to change. That was the point. It was called the Quiet Expanse, a region so empty that even light seemed reluctant to cross it. No trade routes, no colonies, no patrol necessity beyond ceremonial sweeps meant to reassure the Senate that nothing unexpected could exist where nothing had ever existed before. Commander Elira Venn had drawn the assignment as a punishment. Not officially, of course. Officially, she had been selected for independent command in a low-risk sector, which in Imperial language meant stay out of the way until we decide what to do with you. Her ship, the ISS Resolute Dawn, drifted through the void with the patience of something that had long ago given up expecting anything interesting to happen. For 143 days, nothing had. No anomalies, no signals, no ships, just cold stars and older silence. So, when the sensor array chirped, not an alert, just a curiosity ping, everyone on the bridge noticed, because it wasn't supposed to happen. "Commander," the sensor officer said quietly, as if afraid to disturb something fragile, "we have something." Elira didn't rush. She never rushed. She finished reading the report in her hand, placed it neatly on the console, and stood. "Define something," she said as she walked. The sensor officer hesitated. "I don't know how to classify it." That made her move faster. She reached the central display, looked, and for the first time in 143 days, Commander Elira Venn forgot how to be calm. There was a structure, not a ship, not exactly. It hung in space like a piece of geometry that had decided physics was optional. Angular, asymmetrical, and wrong in ways her mind struggled to resolve. Parts of it appeared closer than they should be. Other parts seemed delayed, like light itself wasn't keeping up. "Range?" she asked. "Unknown." "Unknown is not a range. It doesn't return a consistent distance reading." That got the entire bridge's attention. "Try triangulation." We did. And we got 3 different answers. Silence settled. That wasn't just unusual, that was impossible. "Run identification protocols," Elira said. "Already did. No match in Imperial archives. Expand the parameters." Expanded. And, the officer swallowed, still nothing. That meant one thing. This didn't belong to anyone. "Any emissions?" she asked. "No standard signatures, no propulsion wake, no heat bloom, no radiation pattern. So it's off?" "No," the officer said slowly. "It's active, but not in any way we understand." Elira folded her arms. "Send a ping. A basic signal. Universal mathematics, the oldest greeting in the galaxy. 2 primes, pause, 3 primes. The signal traveled, touched the object, and returned. Not reflected, responded. Every screen on the bridge flickered, not violently, gently, like something was adjusting them. "Commander," the comms officer whispered, "I didn't authorize—" "I know." A waveform appeared on the main display. Not Imperial, not alien, not anything they recognized. It wasn't just sound, it was layered, visual, mathematical, structural, like a language that didn't choose one form to exist in. "Translation?" Elira asked. The AI hesitated. That alone was enough to make several officers shift uneasily. Tempting," it finally said. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Finally, partial interpretation available. Confidence 11%. The message appeared. One line, simple, clear, impossible. "You are earlier than expected." No one spoke, because there was only one question that mattered. Expected by who? "Commander," navigation said slowly, "we have a problem. Define it. The object, it's not stationary. It hasn't moved. It hasn't moved relative to us." Eli returned. "What does that mean?"
"It means," the navigator said, voice tightening, "we are both moving. Relative to what?" A pause. Then, "something bigger." The stars shifted, not physically, perceptually, like the background of the universe had just updated. Several constellations were slightly off. Distances didn't match stored charts. The quiet expanse was no longer empty. "Full scan," Elira snapped. "Everything." The sensors surged. Deep range, wide spectrum, maximum resolution. And then they saw it. Not one structure, not 10, thousands. Invisible before, now visible. Not ships, not stations, something in between. A network, a lattice, a border. "Commander," someone whispered. "I think—" No one finished the sentence because they all understood it at the same time. This wasn't an anomaly. This wasn't a ship. This wasn't even a structure. This was a border, and they had just crossed it. The message updated, no longer partial, clearer now, like it had decided they were ready. "You were not meant to find this yet, but now that you have, we need to talk." Elira stared at the screen. Her instinct screamed one thing: leave, immediately, full burn, no questions. But something deeper, something colder, told her that wouldn't matter, because if this thing wanted them gone, they would already be gone. "Open channel," she said. The bridge turned to her. "Commander, open channel." The comms officer obeyed. A quiet hum filled the air. "Unidentified structure. This is Commander Elira Venn of the Imperial Navy. You are in restricted space. Identify yourselves." Silence. Then a response. Not through speakers, through everything. Light, sound, thought, and a voice. Calm, ancient, patient. It said, "We wondered which of you would arrive first."
The voice did not echo. It did not distort. It did not even sound like it traveled. It simply was there. Inside the bridge. Inside their systems. Inside their thoughts. "We wondered," it said again, calmly, patiently, "which of you would arrive first." No alarms triggered, no intrusion warnings, no breach indicators. Which somehow made it worse, because it meant, whatever this was, it hadn't forced its way in. It had simply been allowed. "Trace that signal," Commander Elira Venn snapped. "We're trying," the comms officer said, already sweating. "It's not coming from a direction." "Everything comes from a direction." "Not this." The main display shifted, not flickered, shifted. The structure outside stretched, unfolded, reassembled itself into something that was easier to look at. Not because it changed, but because they were being helped to understand it. "Commander," the science officer whispered, "it's adapting to our perception." "Meaning?" "It's not changing shape, it's changing how we see it." The voice returned. "You are experiencing a translation layer, a compromise between your cognition and our existence." Elira's jaw tightened. "You're inside our systems. Yes. You didn't ask." A pause, not hesitation, consideration. "We did," the voice said gently. "You did not recognize the question." Silence hit the bridge like a pressure wave. The comms officer swallowed. "Commander, the initial signal, the one we received, the mathematical ping, it wasn't just a response." Elira looked at him. "What was it?" The officer hesitated, then said it anyway. "It was a handshake." Elira felt something cold settle in her chest. "You're saying we let them in?" "I'm saying," he replied quietly, "we opened the door and called it communication." Outside, the lattice shifted again. Now that they could see it,
they realized something far worse. It wasn't just around them. It extended outward, farther than sensors could track, threading between stars, wrapping systems, encircling regions. "How long?" Ilyara asked. No one answered, because no one could. The voice did. "Approximately 112 years," it said. Every person on the bridge went still. "That's impossible," the navigator whispered. "You don't have the capability to detect us," the voice replied. "That is not a failure. It is a design decision." Ilyara stepped forward. "Who are you?" A pause. Not uncertainty. Choice. "We are what remains of those who learned too late." That wasn't an answer. Not really. But it was enough to make everyone uneasy. "Remains of what?" Ilyara pressed. "Of a civilization," the voice said, "that once believed the galaxy functioned as you do now." The stars shifted again. No, not the stars. The data overlay. New markers appeared, faint, hidden, everywhere. "Commander," the science officer breathed, "these readings, they've been here the entire time." "Explain." "We've been filtering them out." "Filtering what out?" "Everything that didn't match known physics." That hit harder than anything else, because it meant they hadn't been blind. They had been selectively seeing. "You hid," said Ilyara. "Yes." "Why?" The answer came instantly. "Because last time," the voice said, "we did not." The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop. "We announced ourselves," it continued. "We believed contact led to understanding, that understanding led to cooperation." A pause, longer this time, heavier. "We were incorrect." No one spoke, because everyone knew what that meant. "What happened?" Ilyara asked. For the first time, the voice changed, not in tone, in weight. "We were discovered," it said, "by an empire that believed what it could not control should not exist." No one needed clarification. They all served one. "We were smaller then, less careful, less patient." The lattice outside pulsed faintly, like a memory. "They came with fleets," it said. "They came with certainty." A flicker, just for a second. The main display showed something else. Not the lattice, not the stars. Burning worlds, silent ships, systems going dark. Then it was gone. "We erased us," the voice said simply. Silence. Absolute. The comms officer whispered what everyone was thinking. "Then how are you still here?" A pause. Then, "We changed." The lattice brightened. Not aggressively, but unmistakably. "We stopped being a place. We became a condition." Ilyara frowned. "That's not an answer. It is the only one that matters." The science officer stepped forward, unable to stay quiet anymore. "You're distributed," she said, thinking out loud. "Not centralized, not planetary, not even system-based." Her eyes widened. "You exist between things." "Yes." A chill ran through the room. "You hid in the gaps," she whispered. "In the spaces no one watches." "Yes." Ilyara's mind raced. A civilization that couldn't be targeted, couldn't be mapped, couldn't be attacked, because it wasn't anywhere specific. "You've been watching us," she said, "studying." "Yes." "For how long?" "Since your first faster-than-light event," the voice replied. The bridge went completely still. "That was," someone started. 108 years ago, the navigator finished. "Yes." Ilyara exhaled slowly. "You've been observing us since the moment we entered the stars." "Yes." And you never made contact? No. Why? The answer came without hesitation. Because you were not ready. A spark of anger cut through the fear. And now we are? A pause. Then, no, the voice said. That landed harder than any insult. Then why are we having this conversation? Ilyara demanded. The lattice pulsed again. Closer now. Not physically, but in a way that made it feel closer. Because you have reached the point where you become dangerous. No one moved. Define dangerous, Ilyara said. You have unified enough to expand. You have advanced enough to dominate lesser civilizations. Another pulse. And you have not yet learned restraint. That one hit, because it wasn't wrong. We have observed your empire, the voice continued, your methods, your assumptions. Ilyara didn't like where this was going. You believe strength ensures stability. You believe control ensures peace. The lights dimmed, just slightly. We believed that too. Ilyara's voice hardened. And you're saying we're wrong? No, the voice said. We are saying... A pause. You are incomplete. The words lingered. Outside, the lattice expanded further into visibility, layer after layer, system after system. And then, new shapes appeared. Ships, not imperial, not alien, not anything they had ever seen. Hundreds of them, silent, dark, waiting. They're not attacking, the weapons officer whispered. They're not targeting us. No, Ilyara said slowly. They don't need to. The voice spoke one final time. We did not stop you when you crossed this boundary. A pause. We allowed it. Ilyara felt that cold sensation again, stronger now. Why? She asked. The answer came, soft, certain, unavoidable. Because, the voice said, it was time for you to know. The ships around them powered on. Not weapons, not shields, something else. That you are not the most advanced civilization in this galaxy. The stars went dark. Not destroyed, not gone, just invisible.
The stars didn't disappear. They were still there, burning, radiating, existing exactly as they always had. But the resolute dawn could no longer see them. External visuals are gone, the navigation officer said, voice tight. Not just optics, deep spectrum too. Infrared, ultraviolet, gravimetric, everything's blank. Passive sensors? Ilyara asked. Offline. Active? Not responding. The ship wasn't blind. It was denied. Internal systems? Ilyara asked. Operational. Propulsion? Online. Weapons? A pause. Technically functional, the weapons officer said, but without targeting data, they're useless. Ilyara nodded once. So, they weren't under attack. They were being handled. Outside, in the impossible dark, the hidden ships remained, unseen again. But now, everyone knew they were there. You've isolated us, Ilyara said into the silence. Yes, the voice replied. Why? A pause. Then, to remove variables. That answer didn't help. What variables? You, the voice said simply. The bridge went still. We require a controlled environment, it continued, uninterrupted, uninfluenced, without interference from your command structure. Ilyara's expression hardened. You don't get to decide that. A flicker. The main display returned, but not the stars. A map. Imperial space. Recognizable. Detailed. And then it began to change. Points of light appeared. Hundreds. Then thousands, then tens of thousands. What am I looking at? Ilyara asked. Your empire, the voice said, accurately. The science officer leaned forward.
Commander, this isn't our map. Explain. It's more complete. New routes appeared, uncharted ones, hidden corridors, unrecorded outposts, things the Empire didn't even know it had. That's impossible, someone whispered. No, the voice said calmly. It is simply observed. Illyria's eyes narrowed. You've mapped us better than we have. Yes. For how long? 31 of your years. No one reacted immediately, because the implication had to land first. You've been inside our territory, Illyria said slowly. Yes. Undetected. Yes. A quiet kind of dread spread across the bridge. You've been watching everything, she said. Not everything, the voice corrected. Only what matters. The map shifted again, zooming inward, faster, system to system, sector to sector. And then it stopped, at a border, a familiar one. The Keth expansion line, the navigator whispered. Yes, the voice said, your most recent acquisition. The display split. One side, Imperial forces, ships, stations, control. The other, smaller systems, less developed, less defended. Those are pre-integration species, Illyria said. Yes, the word hung there. You mean targets, the voice added. The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop again. They are under Imperial protection, Illyria said firmly. Define protection. That was the wrong question. It means stability, she replied. Order, security. A pause. Then, it means compliance, the voice said. Illyria didn't answer, because again, it wasn't wrong. We have observed this pattern, the voice continued, across multiple civilizations, across multiple cycles. The map zoomed out, far out, beyond Imperial space. New regions appeared, old ones, dead ones. Empires emerge, the voice said. They expand, they consolidate, they enforce. Points of light flared, then went dark. They reach a peak, more lights, brighter, stronger. Then they stagnate, flicker, instability, conflict, and then darkness. They collapse. No one spoke, because they had all studied history, and this matched it too well. You're saying this is inevitable, Illyria said. No. The voice shifted slightly, more focused. We are saying this is predictable. The map changed again. Now, only one region remained highlighted, the Empire. Your civilization, the voice said, is approaching that threshold. Silence. That's speculation, Illyria said. No, the voice replied. It is pattern recognition. A beat. You are expanding faster than your governance can stabilize. Your control relies on fear more than cooperation. Your outer systems are beginning to resist quietly. Every word, precise, measured, uncomfortably accurate. You don't know us, Illyria said. We know enough. The display flickered again. Now, new data appeared. Intercepted transmissions, internal reports, strategic analyses, all Imperial, all classified, all known. Commander, the comms officer whispered, these are level 9 archives, which meant only the highest command should have access. You've infiltrated us, Illyria said. No. A pause. You broadcast more than you realize. That was worse. You're analyzing us, she said, studying our weaknesses. Yes. At what point do you decide to act, she demanded. The answer came, without hesitation. We are already acting. The bridge froze. What does that mean? The map zoomed out again, and then they saw it. Not just the Empire, the entire region, and threaded through it, invisible before, now unmistakable, the lattice, everywhere. Around systems, between routes, across borders. You've surrounded us, someone whispered. No, the voice said calmly. A pause. We've been here the whole time. Illyria felt it then, the full weight of it. They hadn't just crossed a boundary. They had discovered something that had already, quietly, completely, integrated itself into their reality. Why? She asked, and this time the answer was different. Not observational, not analytical, personal. Because we remember, the voice said softly, what happens when no one intervenes. The burning worlds flashed again, longer this time, clearer. They destroyed you, Illyra said. Yes, and now you're trying to stop that from happening again. No, the word came sharper this time. We are preventing something worse. That made her pause. Worse than extinction? She asked. Yes. The lights dimmed again. The ships outside, the unseen ones, shifted. Not threatening, not aggressive, just closer. Extinction, the voice said, is an end. A pause. What your kind is approaching. The map flickered, and for a moment, just a moment, they saw something beyond it. Not the Empire, not the galaxy, something larger, older, watching. Is a beginning, the voice finished. Illyra's breath caught. What does that mean? She asked quietly. Silence. Then, you are not the only ones who notice growing civilizations, the voice said. The dark outside the ship felt different now. Heavy. Something else is watching us, the science officer whispered. Yes, that single word changed everything. And they do not negotiate, the voice said. The map went dark. Only one thing remained visible. A single point, far beyond imperial space, pulsing, slow, patient, waiting. We let empires grow, the voice said quietly, so they are strong enough, a pause, to survive being noticed.
No one on the bridge spoke because every instinct, every trained reflex was telling them the same thing. That is not a star. Range? Illyra asked quietly. The navigation officer didn't answer immediately, not because he didn't want to, but because the numbers didn't make sense. It's outside mapped space, he said finally. How far outside? Illyra pressed. A pause. We don't have a unit for it. That was new, and nothing about today had been new in a good way. It's not distance, the science officer said slowly, stepping closer to the display. It's offset. Explain. She hesitated, then said it anyway. It's not just far away. A beat. It's not entirely in the same layer of space. Silence fell again. The voice returned. Quieter now, more focused. You are perceiving a projection, a reduced representation of something your sensory framework cannot fully process. Illyra didn't look away from the pulsing point. What is it? She asked. A pause, longer than before, and for the first time, the voice did something it had not done yet. It hesitated. We do not have a direct translation, it said carefully. That made everything worse. Then approximate, Illyra said. Another pause. Then, observer. The words settled heavily into the room. Observer? The weapons officer repeated. That's not a threat designation. No, the voice said. It is not. Then what does it do? Illyra asked. The lights dimmed again, and the display changed. Not a map this time, a recording. Old, very old. This is a reconstruction from the final moments of a civilization that preceded us. The image stabilized. A system, alive. Ships, stations, signals. A civilization at its height. Then, the point appeared. Far away, small, insignificant, just like now. They detected it, the voice said. They did what you are doing now. The image zoomed. Closer. Closer. They tried to understand. The point pulsed. Nothing happened. For a long time, nothing happened. They believed it was harmless. The bridge of the Resolute Dawn felt very small.
Then it looked back. The point changed. Not physically, not visibly, but everything else did. The system flickered. Ships paused. Not stopped. Paused. Like time itself had hesitated. "What is it doing?" someone whispered. The voice answered, "Observing." The stars in the recording dimmed. Not gone. Muted. Signals failed. Communications broke down. Sensors returned nothing. "Does this feel familiar?" the voice asked. No one answered, because it did. Too much. "They attempted contact," the voice continued. "They attempted defense." The ships in the recording powered weapons. Formations shifted. Shields rose. It didn't matter. The point pulsed again, and then one ship vanished. Not destroyed, not exploded, just gone. Then another, and another. No pattern, no targeting, just removal. "They were not being attacked," the voice said. "They were being reduced." The word sat wrong. "What does that mean?" Illyra asked. "It means they were being simplified." The recording accelerated. Entire stations disappeared. Planets dimmed. Not destroyed, muted. As if something was deciding, piece by piece, what was necessary and what was not. They tried to flee. Ships jumped. Some made it. Most did not. They tried to hide. Signals dropped. Lights went dark. It didn't matter. The point pulsed again, and the system collapsed. Not violently, quietly, like a conversation ending. The recording ended. The bridge was silent. No one moved, because everyone understood. "That's not war," the science officer whispered. "No, it is not." "What is it?" Illyra asked. A pause. Then, "It is evaluation." That word was worse than anything else. "Evaluation of what?" she demanded. The answer came without hesitation. "Relevance." The silence that followed was absolute. "You're saying," Illyra started slowly, "that thing decides if a civilization should exist?" "Yes. And if it decides no?" The voice did not soften. "They do not." A tremor ran through the crew. "How many times has this happened?" someone asked. A pause. Then, "We do not know." That was worse. "But you've seen it before," Illyra said. "Yes." "And you survived?" Another pause. This one longer. "Partially." The lattice outside flickered faintly. "We learned," the voice continued, "that visibility invites attention." The display shifted again, now showing the galaxy, with absences. Not empty space, places where something had once been. We hid, we reduced our footprint, we became less noticeable. Illyra's mind raced. "And now we're expanding," she said. "Yes." "And that makes us visible." "Yes." The implication settled like gravity. "You let us grow," she said slowly. "You watched us build an empire." "Yes." "Why?" she demanded. The answer came, clear, unavoidable. "Because weak civilizations are erased immediately." A pause. "Strong ones," the pulsing point brightened, "are evaluated." No one breathed. "And you think we can survive that?" Illyra asked. Another pause. Then, "No." That hit harder than anything else. "Then why tell us?" she demanded. The voice softened. "Because survival is not the only outcome." That didn't help. "What does that mean?" she asked. The ships outside powered again. this time fully. Energy signatures lit the dark, controlled, precise, ready. "We cannot stop it," the voice said. A beat. "But we can change what it sees." Illyra stared at the display. "You want to use us," she said. "No." A pause. "We want to stand with you." That was new. "You've been hiding for 100 years, and now you want to fight something that erases civilizations?" "No." A pause. "We want to be present when it looks." The pulsing point flared, stronger now, closer. "It's already started," the science officer whispered. "Yes," the voice confirmed. Illyra straightened, command settling back into place. "What do we do?" she asked. For the first time, the answer came immediately. "You decide." A pause. "Whether you want to be seen as you are." The stars flickered again, returning, slowly, one by one. But now, they didn't look the same. Because now, everyone on that bridge knew something out there was about to look directly at them.
The stars came back, one by one, cold, distant, familiar, but nothing felt the same anymore, because now everyone on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn knew the darkness between those stars was not empty, and something within it had already begun to look at them. "Commander," the navigation officer said quietly, "it's moving." Illyra didn't need to ask what it was. Her eyes were already locked on the display. The point. It wasn't pulsing anymore. It was approaching. Not through space, not in any way the ship could measure, but it was closer. Everyone felt it, like pressure, like gravity without mass. "It's locking onto us," the science officer whispered. The voice returned. "It has noticed," it said. Silence. "How long do we have?" Illyra asked. A pause. Then, "We do not know." That was the worst answer of all. The bridge held steady, trained, disciplined, but beneath that, fear, not of destruction, of being judged. "Get me a channel to High Command," Illyra ordered. "Commander," the comms officer hesitated, "we don't know if signals will." "Try." The transmission went out. For a moment, nothing. Then, a response. Clear, immediate. "Resolute Dawn, this is Imperial Command." Illyra blinked. "They're receiving us?" "Yes," the voice said quietly. "They are being allowed to." The main display split. High Command appeared. Admirals, strategists, faces Illyra recognized. All of them looking tense. "We've been receiving fragmented reports," the Grand Strategist said. "Explain the situation." Illyra didn't hesitate. "There is a non-local entity," she said. "Ancient, non-hostile, possibly." A breath. "It evaluates civilizations." Silence. Then, "Clarify evaluates," the strategist said. Illyra held his gaze. "If it decides we are not relevant." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Behind her, the voice spoke again. "It is accelerating," it said. The point brightened, larger now, closer, and something else. It wasn't alone anymore. Faint shapes appeared around it, not ships, fragments, echoes, like pieces of things that had once existed and no longer did. "Commander," the science officer whispered, "those are remnants." The implication hit like a shockwave. Everything it had erased, it carried with it. High Command saw it too. The channel went silent. For several long seconds, no one spoke. Then, the strategist said the only thing that mattered. "What are our options?" Illyra looked at the display, at the approaching point, at the hidden fleet around them. Then, she looked at the empty space beyond and understood something.
"There aren't any," she said. Silence. Then, "We cannot fight this," she continued. "We cannot hide from it." A breath. "And we cannot run." The voice added quietly, "All correct." "So what do we do?" the strategist asked. Elira didn't answer immediately, because the answer wasn't military, it wasn't strategic, it was something else, something the Empire had never needed before. She turned slightly. "You said we could change what it sees," she said to the voice. "Yes. How?" A pause. Then, "By not being what it expects." That wasn't helpful. "Explain." The voice shifted. "Civilizations that expand through dominance follow predictable patterns." The display flickered, showing past collapses, erased systems. They compete, they consume, they destabilize. The pulsing point flared again. "It observes this pattern." A pause. "And it concludes," the stars dimmed, "that such systems are inefficient." Elira felt it click. "You're saying it's not judging morality," she said. "No. It's judging stability." "Yes." The realization hit the entire bridge at once. "This isn't a war," the science officer whispered. "It's a filter." "Yes." Elira turned back to the command channel. "High Command," she said, "everything we are doing, our expansion, our control." A breath. "It's exactly what this thing expects." The strategist frowned. "And?" Elira's voice steadied. "And that means we fail." Silence. Heavy. Then, "What are you proposing?" he asked. Elira looked at the approaching point, felt the pressure building, and made the hardest decision of her career. "Stand down," she said. The bridge froze. "Commander," someone started. She didn't look at them. "All fleets, all expansion forces, pull back." The strategist's expression hardened. "You are suggesting we abandon territorial control?" "I am suggesting we stop acting like a conquering empire." Silence. Then, "That is not a tactical decision," he said. "No, it's a survival one." The point flared, brighter now, closer. "You have seconds," the voice said quietly. The strategist looked at her. For a long moment, then he made his choice. "Transmit to all commands," he said. A pause. Then, "Stand down." Across the Empire, ships powered down weapons, fleets halted, expansion lines froze. For the first time in 5,000 years, the Empire stopped. The point pulsed once, and everything went still. Not just the ship, not just the system, everything. Time paused. Elira couldn't move, couldn't speak, but she was aware of something, looking. Not at the ship, not at the fleet, at all of it, at the Empire, at the hidden civilization, at the patterns, the choices, the change. And for a single endless moment, the galaxy held its breath. Then, the pressure vanished, the point dimmed, and slowly, very slowly, it began to recede. The stars returned to normal. Sensors came back online, systems rebooted. The silence broke. "Commander," the navigation officer whispered, "it's leaving." Elira exhaled. Not relief, not yet, just understanding. The voice spoke one final time. "It has made its determination." Elira didn't look away from the fading point. "And?" she asked. A pause. Then, "You are unresolved." The word hung there. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means," the voice said quietly, "you are no longer predictable." A beat. "And for now," the point vanished. "That is enough." Silence. Then, the galaxy breathed again. Days later, the reports spread, not just within the Empire, but beyond it. For the first time, the Empire did not expand. It reached out, not with fleets, but with offers. communication, cooperation, partnership. Some didn't trust it, some never would, but the pattern had changed. And somewhere in the spaces between stars, something ancient watched, quiet, patient, waiting to see what humanity would become next.